welcome, Joe. Everybody, this is Joe Wilkinson. I'm really excited that we get to talk. You and I met, maybe 3, 4, could it be that long? Maybe even longer, years ago up at Pottery Northwest up in Seattle at a reception. And I really found at that time visiting with you and seeing your work was great, but more so I really enjoyed talking with you and enjoyed just kind of our banter, to be quite frank.
Thanks, man.
And it keeps you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. It keeps reminds me of this thing that we keep missing out on these days. It's like we're showing your work right now online, and it's like, gosh, I want people to get to hear you a little bit, so and get to know you. I wanted to, I guess, start kind of how we've been starting these, and just kind of get a frame for those folks that don't know you as well, how you got involved in the clay and kind of how you got the clay bug, and then kind of what your journey's been from then and how you got to where you're at now. Yeah, fill us in.
Excellent. Hey, to start off, thank you so much for the online feature. I really do appreciate it. It's obviously in this weird moment in history that we're all exploring, is that the in-person is now non-existent for the most part. So the online becomes even more important. So thank you for your flexibility there at Eutectic and for making such a nice transition. So let's see, clay story. I got into clay in, I want to say 2009. And I was, prior to that, a photographer and went to school for photography, and then took off to New York City for a couple of years, working as a photo assistant, and ended up falling out of love with the idea of having it as a career. And I didn't know at the time that it was going to be that fine art so much was what I was interested in, as it was just being within the arts, exploring something that was unknown for me. And so I left New York, sort of with my tail between my legs, and moved back to Colorado, where I was from, and moved up to Breckenridge, Colorado, in the mountains. And I was looking for an outlet, a creative outlet, and I ventured into the Colorado Mountain College's class curriculum, and saw a ceramics class that I decided I would take. And I think the mix of the emotional, like, searching, and the going from this large scale of New York and this photo career that I was thinking of, to this very small town, coming into this clay class, and the tangibility, the obviously the touch of it was really prominent, but the community that surrounded it, which is always a story, right? The clay community is very welcoming for the most part. There's something about the medium itself that is very communal. And so this welcoming presence of the community and the material and the professor there was sort of this light that opened up, this door that opened up. And as I started playing around with the material, the people that I was around started reflecting to me that I was making things that they were all really enjoying, and that they hadn't maybe seen before, that I was maybe pressing the material in ways that they hadn't known. And that kind of, that recognition was nice. And I was really enjoying the processes that I was learning, and so I just kept going with it. And once I moved back down to Denver, I joined a different clay studio, and it was having the same experiences with community and with process and people reflecting that I was sort of pressing the material a little bit. And so I kept going with that. And then another studio in Arvada. And then after that, I started talking to CU Boulder, and I went up and I talked to Kim Dickey, professor there, and had a sit down with her, and actually took a couple pieces that I had made and said, I'm considering, keeping going with this. I really can't get enough of it. What do you think about me joining up here in your BFA program? And she was very welcoming. Once again, the clay community, very welcoming. And so it sort of just snowballed, and I still can't get enough of it. It's led me to a number of very cool locations and a continuation of wonderful communities. So enjoyable.
Awesome. How long you been? And you're in, obviously, I know this, everybody doesn't, but you're in Seattle. How long you been up there?
I got here in 2016.
Okay. Coming on 6 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. Still loving it.
What was it, the pottery that brought you there, or do you mind if I ask how you integrated into clay there?
Yeah, as I left Michigan State, which is where I did my MFA, I decided that I didn't want to do the adjunct professorship, the jumping around. I had moved around enough in my life that I was ready to find just one place. And so a cohort of mine in the MFA program, we became good friends there, and we decided afterwards that we wanted to move somewhere together and
cool.
Kind of explore a new space together and see what the community was like. And so we did a whole pros and cons list of places where we could go, and Seattle landed as the place. And it just so happened that Pottery Northwest was there, and my professor at Michigan State, Blake Williams, she had done a residency there a long time prior and was raving about it. She said, you should totally check it out and apply for the residency. And I did, and it worked out so well that a month after I moved here, I was in the residency, and I had a studio and a community right there right away. And it was very nice to very fluid move.
Cool. Well, let's talk about this body of work.
Okay.
When I met you, I feel like there's a thread that threads a lot of your work together, which is kind of this macro, micro exploration. I mean, I'm thinking of this in a very literal sense, but would you talk about the inspiration behind the current pieces?
Sure. I'm sort of referring to them as my Notions series.
Okay.
And I've been very interested over the last, I guess, 3-4 years at least, of how identities build. Like how do we become who we become? Identity is so massively a part of our own understanding of ourselves and reflections on relationships with each other. But even larger than that, you go to identity politics, which is a massive part of our cultural dialogues that are unfolding. And so I've been curious about how those creations unfold, between our little intuitive spaces that we hold on, that we grasp onto, that we don't really understand maybe where they came from, but they become little nodes of reference for the way that we all relate to particular instances, experiences in our lives. And so really just mapping out what those variations are, just intrigue me. And because I tend to build very intuitively, and like the aspect of this unknown form coming to life, they seem to work. The concept and the process seem to work together for me. And so I think I've made probably about a dozen to 15 of them now, and
Mm-hmm.
each one of them comes out very, very unique, just because it is such an intuitive build. And
Yeah.
each of the nodes might be differ in scale, and each of the connections, the filaments that connect them, have different movement within them. And so they create these beautiful asymmetrical forms, but at the same time, they create also these beautiful windows through them that are pretty interesting as well.
I kind of had a fun experience when I first started looking at them. I looked at the work before I read your statement, and it was kind of, in a silly way, gratifying reading your statement, because it was exactly what I was experiencing when I was looking at the work. So first,
cool.
a lot of times I look at work, and there's like just like, it's the way my brain works, but it's sort of like a composition, right? I'm like checking, I'm moving around, and it was like my eye would stop at a kind of a bulb, and then I'd move to the next area and concentrate and move, and I made this, my own connection of like, it's kind of like forming thoughts and stopping, and then I'm going to the next place, and I'm moving around this piece with my eyeball. Right. And then it was like, when I read it, I was like, yeah, that's like what I did. I don't know. It was fun to kind of see that. And then now, having read it and then looking at the work again, and as we were kind of getting stuff online, it kind of just really, continued to resonate with me that way. I really enjoy the work.
That's wonderful to hear, because I think in my mind, I'm always battling with this dilemma of abstraction to something tangible to grasp onto in the work. And I feel like sometimes I go so far into the abstraction that there's no space for any viewer or anybody to really get that initial like
enter.
Neat, all right, I can work with this. So thanks. Nice to hear.
No, my pleasure, thank you. So as I said, like, the structures and the form, there was kind of this like really immediate connection to the concept. And then the other thing I really loved was the surface, and I haven't gotten to touch one of these, but that was this other sort of visceral reaction I was having visually, was, wanting to run my fingers on it and just seeing all that pattern. And I loosely use the word pattern, but the depth of surface quality was just great. And I was just wondering if, how you were, again, I don't want you to, don't share your secrets, actually, it's better you don't. But like what, how are you coming to those surfaces? Are you mixing glazes? Are you making your own glaze? What are you doing? Because it's a really unique surface that I hadn't seen before. I mean, it looks like rock almost, or like a marble stone. Agate kind of.
Thanks. I like that reference as well. I do, with the surface. I've been looking for something that is sort of referential to the rocks, the geologic process as well. It sort of fits in for me into that building of identity, a notion that that conglomeration in rocks is done over so much time within history, geological time, that it just lends a deeper narrative to that notion idea. So I'm mixing my own glazes, and it's sort of weird for me, because I want it to be some really, really deep, intricate process. But truthfully, these are one firing glaze. And
cool. So it's in the formulation.
it's, yeah, you know, the process of actually applying the glaze is where it all lies, really. And
Cool.
unfortunately, I won't give that away. My girlfriend is always poking me like, "Don't give your secrets away," and you're referencing that as well. So I won't. I'll hold on to that, I guess. But you know, it's definitely not an exacting process. I've screwed up because the control factor is not always is not always there. I've screwed up any number of pieces where it's
sure.
You open that kiln and you're just like, oh my God, why did I choose those colors combinations, or where did I go wrong, and how much I applied, or you know, so it's just like any glazes that I've understood other ceramic artists to work with. There's always those moments of torture for us.
Oh yeah.
Mine is no different. And unfortunately, with these pieces, because there's so much negative space and there's so much small connections here in different parts, trying to fire it more than once, you know,
dangerous.
Becomes very dangerous. Loading it into the kiln in the first bisque firing is always a very tedious, anxious moment.
I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something else I loved about the sort of juxtaposition of the surface to the forms. You know, there's certainly a delicacy to the forms, a fragility to them, and then that's what really kind of sucked me into the surface, because the surface it reminds me of rock. It feels so strong. Yeah. You know, so I love that play that happens there too. And in an age currently where I think a lot of ceramics, everybody does, you know, drippy, foamy, moving things. You know, your forms kind of are doing that for me, and I'm grateful. I'm glad that that you don't need the surface to do that. In my humble opinion, I feel like that dichotomy or juxtaposition, and that really transcends something that I think, you know,
thanks,
could have been like, oh, I'll put something gooey on it, you know, like a lot of folks are doing, which is great for what they're doing. But I think this is I think what you've done is spot on.
You know who the first ceramic artist that I ever really fell in love with was Ken Price. And his surfaces obviously were automotive paint, but the depth that they had with his, you know, and that form that's very melty and amorphous and moving, it's a really nice thing of you to say, for that form to give you that sort of movement and structure, while holding on to that nice depth of the glaze, because that's the thing that I was always looking at him and being like, wow, you've hit everything, and this beautiful world that you've created in this piece is where I want to go. And so you saying that makes me feel like maybe I'm getting closer there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little maybe egotistical to say, to reference and say I'm moving into Ken Price territory, but he's definitely one of my heroes.
Sure. And you know, and equally so to my aesthetic, right? You know, it's like I might like something and everyone likes different things, but again, you know, what always draws me to certain sculptures is that there's layers to peel back, right? You know, that there's a composition that's there. The composition makes you, you know, through working through that composition visually or digesting it, you're having an experience of some emotion or conceptual digestion, and then it pulls you in enough to want to see the surface, and then the surface then has another, you know. So I feel like there's like these, you know, click, like these little markers that it sets off for me, and that's you know, one of those things I look for in work. work, and again, one of the reasons I enjoy your work. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, really, no, thank you, man. Well, you know, the obvious, right? It's been a weird year plus at this point. What are, you know, hopefully we're kind of coming out of the, you know, COVID stuff and starting to get out there in the world. And what are you looking forward to? What's coming up in your world that you want to share with me or anybody out there? What are you excited about?
I have, I think, two things that are on the horizon that I'm pretty excited about. The first one is non-ceramic oriented. It's the job that I have to actually help facilitate my ceramic studio practice, but it's still working in the arts. I fabricate really large scale wood sculptures with an artist here in Seattle named John Grade. And we are making a piece that's going to be, or we've made a piece that's being installed this month at SeaTac Airport. And it's going to be I was lead on it. And so I'm very, very attached to this piece that I've been making for 3 years now. And it is about 80 feet wide by 45 feet tall, and it cantilevers off the wall about 25 feet. And so we're going, and so it's in a new wing at SeaTac Airport, and you know, all the passengers are going to be walking underneath it and, you know, coming up an escalator underneath it to this amazing space. It's going to become a real icon of the entryway to Seattle and the you know, Puget Sound, the mountains around, and it's going to fit right in a nice way. And so the culmination of that time is about to come up here in the end of the month, and we're going to get to go install it and stand back and look at all the hard work that we've put into it. And so I'm very, very excited about that moment.
That is super cool. Hey, real quick, like an install, I mean, that's giant scale. How long will the install take?
It's going to be
a month, or
it's going to be at least 3 weeks. We've brought in, we've added the possibility of a week for the cranes that are going to be needed to help install this, which is probably the most expensive part of the install, is just you know, keeping the cranes and the operators there. Yeah, but I mean, the install alone is more expensive than I think I make as a income in about at least 7 or 8 years. So it's a big thing. It's you know, so super excited about that. I also have on the horizon, I was approached by a art consultant here in the Seattle area about a new high-rise build in downtown Seattle, and they are very interested in some ceramic tiles that I've made. I did a ceramic tile floor here at my house, and that led to this person seeing that and putting that forward for this group that's creating this building as a possible part of their entryway. And so they are supposed to be getting back to me within this first quarter of this year, which is almost done, to have me come up and conceptualize some tile possibilities for their entryway. So that is, you know, it's not a given yet, but if this happens, it could be a real start to maybe a career in a direction that I was not quite expecting as well, with doing some tile work. And they're sort of asymmetrical, amorphous tiles as well. They're not your standard square, rectangular tiles, or just purely round. And so there's an artistry to the tiles that's similar in ways to the sculptures that we're talking about today. And the installation is a very intuitive installation, where you're playing the tile shapes to each other, almost like a puzzle. So anyway, super excited about that.
Cool.
That possibility is on the horizon. So
those are both great things to be excited about, and
yeah, thanks.
That they're just in motion. Heck yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today, and being so open about everything you're working on and your journey. I've been saying this to a lot of colleagues, and doing these online features. Obviously, can't wait to see you in person, but I want to keep doing these. So if we check in, we do another sort of gig in 6-9 months. I mean, one of my reality checks through this sort of last year as a gallerist is really wanting to create longer term relationships with the people I work with.
Yeah.
And continuing to check in. I think that and I think that people that support and people that would consider owning work and those sort of things, I think that's part of the whole journey here too, is the resounding thing I've heard over the years from collectors is getting to see the journey of the artist throughout years. They're like, hey, I got something from that person 5 years ago, and I want to get another piece now, and I see that I'm contributing to this person's career, and I think it's just I want to continue to kind of ideate around ways that we do that together. So
yeah, that's wonderful. I really appreciate it. I think human connections are even more important than ever. I mean, we've all gotten this moment where we get to kind of back off and move inside of ourselves in our own little bubbles, almost in a forced way. But I think taking something good out of the pandemic and that those experiences of inward focus, being able to move back out into the world and explore what we've learned about ourselves in relation to everybody else. We can have some maybe fresh connections. I'm looking forward to that as well. So I look forward to seeing you again in person someday, and shaking hands, having a little drink, and
totally.
art, and I'll buy the first round.
All right, second one's on me. All right, Joe, thanks again so much for your time, man. I look forward to seeing you soon, and be well and be safe.
Yeah, have a great day, man.
All right, you too. Catch you later.
Bye, everybody.